We spend so much time and effort and focus on trying to get in, but knowing when to pull out is what really matters. Of your business, of course. Stick with us today. We're going to give you some great ways to prepare for the exit, and in the end, strategies you can implement now.
Hi, welcome back to Blunt Force Business. I'm Patrick Marino.
And I'm Brian Fauci.
Today we're starting a little bit differently because our expert is in that chair. We're going to talk about your exit strategy, and let's get right into our Blunt Force facts. You ready to go, Mr. LaFauci?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. Professor LaFauci is going to be leading the class today. Blunt Force fact number 1 in your exit strategy is you got to have something to buy.
Yeah, so as you prepare for getting out of your business, you have to give them something that has value. And a lot of solopreneurs aren't creating value when they exit because they are the value. I'm going to show you how to do that.
Blunt Force fact number 2 for your exit strategy is you got to give the tax man the win.
You got to give the tax man the win. Uncle Sam, we try to beat Uncle Sam every year. But as you get close to the end, that's going to work against you. So we're going to tell you how to prepare for that so that you look good to the potential buyer.
I mean, I'm always running from Uncle Sam. I'm looking forward to that strategy. And then the last part of your exit strategy is the end starts at the beginning.
The best time to plan for getting out is right when you start. We're all going to want to exit, but we forget about that. And the point of a business is to exit out of it. It's not to be there perpetually working till you're 99, okay? We're going to tell you how to do that.
Well, so as of right now, I am on the 99-year-old.
Work till you're 99.
I'm on the 99-year-old
We're going to change that today.
Yeah, so
we're going to change that today.
This is a great one for me because this is one where I'm going to be doing a lot of listening to learn because this is not my area of expertise. I started, the business I run started a little later than a lot of other businesses. And that doesn't mean it can't be successful and I can't eventually have an exit strategy. But I kind of meandered to get here. This was not as has been documented in some of our podcasts. So this is certainly an area that Brian is the expert in. Brian, with his consulting company, One Strategy is one of their key areas of expertise. So for me, Brian, we're talking about a situation that a lot of small business owners probably aren't thinking about enough until maybe it's even too late. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, well, yes, it's very fair to say because we see it all the time. We see companies that come to us and we ask for, and they're like, all right, we're looking to get out, right? So we're looking to sell, we're looking to get out. And so we give them our little document that says, hey, these are all the things that we want. Bo really wants to be a part of our podcast today. She's like, get me in. I'll tell you how to leave. And, all the things that we want.
So what do you mean you're going to leave? You guys just got here.
Right. So we give them that. And inevitably, in that is a lot of like profit and loss. It's a lot of balance sheet stuff. It's a lot of tax returns. And what do we often see? We often see that company has been doing the thing that we all do, which is they've been trying to avoid paying taxes. So how do you do that? Well, you draw down your income. You show all these expenses. You do all the things that a new buyer is going to come in and use against you. It's like loading the opponent's gun. That's what we do.
So what are you trying to say? Like these businesses have a backlog of taxes that they are going to owe? Is that what you mean?
No, what I'm saying is like, so
that requires a little bit of further explanation.
Right. Yeah. So what does the normal business owner do when tax time comes? Well, they sit with their accountant and they say, help me avoid a heavy tax burden, which makes sense. A lot of times your accountant will say, hey, you should buy a piece of equipment, the end of this year, because that way you're building an asset, because if you don't do that, you're going to pay the government, right? So it makes sense how we get there. The thing that happens with that, now if we fast forward to, I'm now going to present all these documents to a potential buyer, is now I have to explain them. And so we'll have the conversation, right? So what am I going to say when you're reviewing my tax returns? I'm going to say, don't worry, Patrick. We had to buy that stuff. Or, we were doing that just because we were going to pay taxes. You're going to say, well, Brian,
I'm the buyer?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do I know that's true?
Okay.
Right? So now
Well, why does it matter to me? Because I'm going to be inheriting that asset when I buy the company. Is that why it matters?
It matters
to me?
more to you because our bottom line isn't showing profit as much as we, right?
Right.
So
how I'm looking as a prospective buyer. I want a profitable company. I don't want a company that's...
Sometimes you may want a company that's like, you may want a company that's at a certain range where you see the ability to grow it. But the value of a company, like think about the value of a house, right? When it goes to the market, the value of a company is based very heavily on its profit. Like how much profit is coming into the business. So if we dwindle down those profits to avoid taxes leading up to the sale, in essence, we're going to present financials to a buyer that show low net profit, which is going to put us in a position where we're going to only be able to put that business to market for X.
Right.
And they're going to look at it as, well, I want to invest and grow. There's not a lot of meat on the bone here. And then, can you explain away some of the stuff? Can you explain that, some of these, and we do that, some of these expenses is the business owner just putting a lot of things through here, and we do those as add backs. So we try to show that. But inevitably, it's almost like giving them an arguing point. And we're going to try to avoid that.
Okay. I mean, maybe we should rewind this a little bit because you kind of, in my head, like my head's spinning already when the podcast just started, right? So we got to rewind that a little bit.
To starting at the beginning, is that what you want?
Well, I mean, maybe I don't know if we could start at the beginning or whatever it is. One of the things you said when we were having the conversation leading up to this, which resonated with me, it makes sense to me, and it's probably part of the whole conversation, is you got to have something to buy.
Yes.
Right. So, and that made sense to me because and maybe I need to, I'm meandering. I'm learning as we go. I have a small business, right? In my case, it's a marketing agency.
Yep.
So I have, basically, if I sold my company, I'd be selling, what would I even be selling? In my case, because I think a lot of especially service-based companies, would be in this situation, right? Where it's a lot easier if you have like a building. It's like, here's our freaking building. You know what I mean?
Which go to our other podcast about why real estate is so important in your company.
Exactly. But in this case, I've got my current client, my book of business.
Yep.
And I have my brand.
Yep.
And those are really the things that you'd be buying if you bought that, right? And then the other thing, like you said, which also resonated with me, is that my business, probably like a lot of businesses, small businesses, is me.
Yes.
Right? So it's like, yeah, there's brands. Yeah, there's a company name. Yes, but really the people, everybody right now who's currently doing business with my business is doing business with me because of me.
Yeah.
Right. So if I tried to get out, like what is it that I'm selling and that's valuable to another business? And I don't want to necessarily bring it down just to me because I can think of another.
No, but these are prime examples.
Tons of like even like a dentist's office. Like I think you mentioned that you were selling a dent or as a physical therapy. I can't remember what you said. There was one company that you told me about that you were selling, or like a plumber, or like a plumbing company, or like any number of these businesses that are probably similar, where it's like brand, book of business, entrepreneur. That's kind of what the business is. That's really what the business is. And then, is there like a selling point for that business?
Right. So let's take your scenario.
Yep.
In your scenario, yes, you're selling a reputation and a book of business, right? And some back end stuff, a couple computers, right?
Right. Well, my company doesn't even own any computers.
Right. Well, some back end stuff, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe just the book of business. Okay. So the value of that book of business is going to be less than what you would be selling if, let's say, you built this company slightly where there was you and then maybe someone right under you. Because just adding that one person in, now if I'm coming in, right? Well, you're retiring, right? So you say, yeah, I'll train you for a couple months, but then I'm retiring. So now what am I getting? Well, I'm getting this person that knows everything. Right. That has so I'm buying their relationship with the clients. I'm buying like their understanding of what happens on a day to day, And I can literally step in and it's just going to run. Whereas there is more uncertainty in just buying a book of business, because now I buy it. And what if I come to find out all those clients were only there because they were like your buddies? And then they're all gone, right? But if there's systems in there, if there's people. So when people...
So the business is more valuable if I've got people working for me, because then there's something to kind of take over.
Absolutely. Selling something that has a human capital infrastructure, for lack of like a, to say it in, fucking people working there, that the day when you leave, and by the way, the less that you are doing the day that you're ready to exit, the more valuable everything else becomes. Because the more of the stuff that you personally are doing day of exit, the more that the potential buyer is going to look at this and say, all right, well, you are the business, right? And all these things you do. So maybe that new buyer wants to be a little absentee.
Right.
Well, can they? Well, not. They can't, because you're doing it. Who's going to do it? So that's where that transition a couple of years out from sale to, if I don't have this human capital infrastructure, probably should look at it. And maybe I end up taking a little less money to do that, but on the back end, I've built something that is far more sellable.
Right, that makes sense to me. I mean, the other thing I'm thinking as well is like, what would be the use case for buying my business, or like a dentist's office, or like a plumber, and I'm just walking through it in my head because we're having this conversation. But like, with my particular agency, my focus is local in this area.
Yeah.
So a bigger agency is like a national presence, might just want the local brand and then take over the brand completely, implement everything that they do. But at least they have the local brand and be able to say, like, we're serving this area.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like people from the outside wouldn't even necessarily know the difference. People on the inside, the current clients who work with me. Yeah. Or what they might do as well is they might say, like, look, here's what we're going to give you for the business. We're also going to pay you for X number of years to run the business. Or they just give you like and they're going to pay you to run the business until they're done with you.
Yeah.
Until they're like, all right.
Which is very common.
We've taken all of the influence out of you, right? You're no longer important anymore. And that's not necessarily saying that in like a pejorative way, like, because sometimes it probably is, like, we're going to keep you, and then you find out they freaking pull the rug from under you. I'm sure that happens to business owners all the time. But I think that in the case where I'm trying to get out, it would be more like, we're going to pay you until we literally have figured out how to replace you. Because we're replacing you in the eyes of your current clients, replacing you in the eyes of the current people that are working for the company. It's going to take a little while to transition that. So we're going to pay you for your time while you're involved in that particular part of it. And then eventually you'll be phased out and someone else will be in charge.
Yeah, and I think, so that's where there's give them something to buy. You said it really well, because I like how you were just talking through your scenario, because that's what we want our listeners to do. Like, just talk.
Well, because secretly I'm selling my business. Like, hey guys, you guys are looking to buy.
Talk through it with yourself and say, what is it I'm selling? And that's where we go, and we can bring up real estate right now too, because that's another piece of this. Adding at some point in time a real estate component to your business can be very lucrative and the exit, or it can be almost like a retirement play of, let's sell the company and I'm going to lease back the space and have that additional revenue for myself. So I think that's another piece of, but always thinking of like, what am I selling? And the more things I can prep to add to that, the more potentially I'm going to get on the exit.
Let's talk a little bit about, I'm sure this would be a user question because I'm having it while we're thinking about it. Like, how do you value your company? Is there like I'm sure there is like an X, right? There's an X. Is it based on revenue? Is it based on profit? Is it based on what you're worth? I mean, like, is there like a standard kind of X where it's like, here's the value on your company. It's based on what you've done for the past 3 or 4 years, the average revenue times X. And that's pretty much kind of like what a good starting point. Like, what's a good starting point? Is there a simple equation we can just kind of put out there right now and say, like, this is a ballpark? You know what I mean? Like, this is kind of a starting point you can think of, or is it more complicated than
it's
that?
overly complicated, but it is a little more than that because there's different evaluation models for the type of sale it is and the type of business it is. So there's trading multipliers in industry. So different industries tend to trade at a different multiplier of their net or gross profit. Okay. Why? Who dictates that? Why it is that way? There's a lot of factors that go into that. But a lot of times we'll say, if you just wanted like a ballpark, not including tangible goods like a building or, this restaurant comes with all the furniture, right? Not including that stuff that has a value, because you can add it right on top.
I mean, a restaurant's a good one because, again, like you can see that scenario where they're literally just buying the name on the top, and the rest of it they're getting, but they don't really, they're just gonna gut the place and replace everything. I mean, they just want the name on the top.
Right.
It's got a good reputation. Then the menu maybe, Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's not the perfect example. So if you take your net revenue for a year and you add back in like all of that, what we call like seller's discretionary income. So what is that? That's if I'm the owner and I pay for my car lease through the business, that money is discretionary. Like the new owner doesn't have to do that. So things like that get added back and back into the net. If you were to do that and just double it, you would have a general starting point. Now,
so let's say I had like a construction business, small construction business. Let's say we do, I don't know, $5 million a year. Well, maybe that's too big. Let's say we do $5 million a year. We have a construction business. So we don't even own yet, but we have 5 trucks in our fleet.
Yeah.
Right. And so we don't own them yet.
You lease them.
Right. We're leasing them, or they're in
so
the process.
They're on the expense. They're an expense.
Right. So those go against the value of the company versus
Yeah.
But basically I could say, like, if it's a $5 million a year company, I can value it on the marketplace as 10.
Well, let's say they're making 5, but at the end, after all expenses, they do like 20% to the bottom line. So the company makes $1 million.
Yeah.
And like I said, this definitely varies. But just the business alone, never mind the value of the equipment.
Yeah.
You double it, you could say, all right, that's a starting point. Now, some industries, it's going to be like 1.5.
Yep.
Some it might be higher, right? So
my profit from my construction business, my $5 million a year construction business, is about $1 million. So my approximate market value is $2 million.
Approximate, yeah.
And that's a ballpark. I can kind of go into in my head. I can think, okay, well, this is kind of where we're at, and then I can start doing the math and maybe doing some. If I'm really serious about getting out, I can start taking some steps to improve that. Or I don't know why I want to sell it for less than that, but like those would be things in my steps. What I'd be doing at that point.
Absolutely. So,
what are some of when you say that just based on like our kind of audience, like what types of businesses? Just take out like success of the business. Like what types of businesses have like higher multipliers in in your experience? I'm putting you on the spot a little bit.
Scalable. If I was going to pick a word,
because like in construction business probably isn't as scalable.
Right. So like what's some like, your tech industry or like they're going to
like
have
a tangible product if I'm only selling it locally.
Yeah. Restaurants, things like that tend to have a lower.
Right.
1.5, in that range. They take a lot to scale.
Yeah, I would imagine.
But yeah, I would say the key word is scalability.
Yeah.
And the other piece you could look at too is for the multiplier, if the industry has solidified future earnings, that really helps the multiplier. So some industries do that really well. So take, for example, your cell phone company. Your cell phone company sells you your phone on credit. Unless you're one of those people who buys your phone outright.
I do actually try and buy my phone.
A lot of people do, but a lot of people just, I'll get the new phone, just put it on my bill, right? So they sell you your phone.
There are people, and I don't need to interrupt this, there's a lot of people who are really smart and have a ton of money, who buy everything on payment plans and never buy anything outright. Like anything, like they have plenty of money to cover the full expense, but they will do it on a
Yeah.
payment plan anyway. And I don't really understand that completely, but I'm sure it's like for planning and tax purposes or whatever it is.
Well,
But
it's better. Money in my pocket's better than not, right? So there's a company near me. It's like a
I mean, that's a good point. I don't
power
always think of
equipment
it that way.
company.
Yeah.
And they sell this like ATV thing. It's like $18,000, right, for this ATV thing. It's cool. And then I had inquired. I don't have one, but I was like, it was cool. So I was asking the guy about it, and he's going through it, and he said, "But just finance it. 0% financing."
Right.
And I agree. Like, what at 0%
So
financing?
you get that money to do something else with it.
Yeah. Why would I give it to him?
Yeah, exactly.
If I can just pay monthly, not $1 more than
And there's some sort of break-even point on the financing where it's better off for me to buy it outright than for me
Probably.
to... Yeah.
Now what is happening there, they've increased the actual price of the piece of equipment to account for the 0%.
Yeah.
So you're getting 0% financing, but that thing bought used, if it's 18,000 brand new, you could probably go buy one 3 years old for 12 or 10, so like it's built in somewhere.
We got into the weeds of being a business owner a little bit, but I like that. It's important to have these conversations because you got people like me who just kind of have a business, but just don't all think everything through. Like again, we're totally different. Brian and I are totally different in the value we bring. This is some of the stuff that the value Brian definitely brings.
Well, to the last
table.
fact of this, what we encourage people to do, and I think this is a conversation would be great. Like we could do a podcast on each one of those specific things in the facts. But as a general rule of thumb, like start at the beginning. So if you're doing initial business planning, you should be asking yourself, like, I'm getting into this for what end, right? Like, what is the end goal here? And
Which I don't think most people do.
They don't.
Most people just start.
Because they're excited.
Starting a business.
They think
I'm
about
going to have my own business.
Oh, figure that out later.
I'm starting. Oh, not even that. Not even figure it out later. Just not even have it on the radar.
Right. I like to look at it from this way. Everything is to get out. Nothing is for perpetuity. Unless you start
The business could be in perpetuity, but you're not going to be in perpetuity.
Right.
You're going to die at some point, right? You're going to be not going to want to work at some point.
So you could look at like a big S corp that maybe is going to look to be here hundreds of years from now. Yes, but they still have an exit strategy for the current owner. Like that guy's got an exit strategy. So if you're a smaller business, that exit strategy is more important to you, right? Like is this going to my kids? Is that why am I doing this to build something for my children? And if so, how do I ensure like my retirement? If that's, But you start at the beginning because then you get to an end goal and then you can build the business plan around the end goal. You get back into it instead of the way most people do it, which is they build it from a starting point and then, all right, we'll see where it takes.
Right.
We'll see where it takes.
Are there things that you found that help more than others? Because we want to give people like something concrete to take away here. So it's like I am starting a new business. I'm creating my business plan. And I've watched this podcast and I've decided, okay, at the end, I'm going to not just as part of my business plan talk about start. I'm going to talk about growth, and then I'm going to talk about my exit. So what's the best thing for me to do as part of just like, as general as you can get, because there's a million different types of businesses.
3 things.
Yep.
Thing number 1, you need a built-in exit strategy for a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and 20 years from now, as a good example. So what do I mean by that? That means that I want you to know, if I said to you, a year from now, if I came to you with X to sell all this thing you're putting all this work into, what would that number be for you? Because someone just starting out, and if someone could say, hey, listen, if someone came to you in 2 years with $2 million, would you jump?
Well, like for a lot of people, the answer would have to be a big number because I'm starting the business so I can work for a while. right? And it would have to be a lot in order for me to give up the future of the business, right? Or am I thinking about that wrong? Even though the business would not be potentially worth as much because
Yeah.
it's year 1 or year 2. But like I just started this thing
Right.
because I'm expecting it to be successful, and it's going to take a little while for it to be successful.
Okay.
And if I haven't given myself enough money, enough time to make enough money,
Yeah.
then it's going to cost a lot for me to sell the business and then there's probably going to be fewer buyers because you're buying potential.
Maybe not. I think it
Or
depends.
is that the wrong way of looking at it?
Yeah, I think it is because it's all about, it depends on your age, like why you got into this, all this stuff. Like, let's take a car detailing company.
You love the car detailing.
Yeah. Young guy starts a car detailing company. Okay. Gets it going. Costs him about 30 grand to get it off the ground. Year 2, big car detailing company says, you got a good book of business there. You're doing a good day. Want to buy you 200,000. That kid might be like, I'm out. I made my money. Over for 2 years, I made money. I could definitely go do something else. I'm young. And I just grew this by, 1,000% in 2 years.
Right.
Right? I'll probably never get any more for this unless I continue to invest and grow. And that, right. So that's what it is here. And
I mean, that's for like the serial. Like, I just think in my head, like, yeah, in the tech world, that makes a ton of sense because, like, you've got, like, say, Instagram getting bought by Facebook. I mean, those guys become rich overnight, right? And they get to kind of stay with the company for a little bit, and then they're out now. And that's like the multiple that you talked about, right? But like, I'm thinking about like the detailer guy.
Yeah.
That might be like a short term like win, but like I don't know. Like I mean, if I'm young, like there's an opportunity cost there where it's like, yeah, I have $200,000 in my pocket right now, but I better freaking do something with that. I mean, it's an opportunity, but it's also a big risk for me to sell early.
Yeah, it very well could be. And so you're giving the other point to that.
Yeah.
All owners are going to look at things differently.
Yeah.
But having
to your broader point.
So maybe that number is higher for that guy.
I'm planning.
Yeah.
Right? I'm planning to buy
absolutely
10, 20.
Yeah. And you could ask yourself this question. Like, you could say, all right, if somebody came to me right now from my marketing company, what would the number be? 5 years. What do I want that number to be? Because now we're thinking like, okay, how do I get it there?
Right.
And then we can go back to the other facts, which are, all right, to get it there, we have to build in human capital.
Yep.
Right? Because our capacity you brought up the plumbing company. One plumber can only do so much work. So how does he grow? Human capital.
Yeah.
And investment in like the stuff that they need to do their job.
Or a good strong brand.
Yeah, but even with a good brand, one company can only do so. One guy.
Oh, I understand that, but I guess I'm saying like the other thing to value, the other thing to try and build, would be the brand. Because especially with like a plumbing company, you find a bunch of plumbers, you can create a plumbing company.
Yes.
So why buy that plumbing company? Well, you buy the brand and the reputation,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
So you think to yourself, if I can build this brand, like again, like the reason why I brought up my marketing company is not because I'm actually thinking of selling. It's because my brand is very specific. Or you think about, we have a friend of our community, who has a very specific brand because he works with a very specific type of person.
Right.
Right. So if you're buying that company, you're buying that whole vision. You're not just buying like, we just do marketing. You're buying like this whole outlook of like, here's the type of people that this brand, and then we can't currently get those people because we don't have the brands.
Right.
So what we're doing is we're adding to our portfolio this brand name, which eventually is whether it's local.
Yep.
Right. A brand can be local. It could be, look, they serve Rhode Island. We don't serve Rhode Island. So we can either start in Rhode Island or we can buy a company that's based in Rhode Island, and we're going to gut the company. We're going to get rid of everybody. But now we have a Rhode Island company that has a reputation, and has a website, and has been in business for a while. Sorry.
No, I mean, you're making great points. It's all like, and that's how I think at the end of the day, you brought up, you have to plan.
Yep.
And then you have to know, what am I planning for? Right. And so you're planning to build stuff out that has tangible value. Okay. And at the end, it's those last couple of years, You got to be conscious with you got to have the conversation with your accountant. Say, hey, listen, I may look to exit in 5 years. Is there stuff I should do now from a tax purpose that I look better on the books to a buyer?
And this is the
they'll
point.
know.
Is this the
They'll
blunt
know.
force fact number 3, which you haven't really talked about enough to wrap up because we're running up against it, maybe 5 minutes. You got to give the tax man the win. Is that what you're talking about? That's blunt force fact number 2. So
Yeah.
walk me through that quickly. So how do we before? So up until this point, we've been dodging the tax man. We're taking advantage of every tax rule and law that we can to minimize the impact of taxes on our growth in our business and our salary.
Yeah.
So what's the opposite of that?
So eventually he's going to get you.
Right.
Like you can't, right. So eventually he's going to get you. And the rule of thumb is future tax rates are only going to go up too. So when we avoid paying taxes today, we kind of win, but we win with the risk that the tax burden we would have paid today is less than in 10 years, right? So there's a risk there. We just feel good now because we didn't pay, right? And that makes sense. Like that's the right thing at certain points in time. Now, if we do the thing we talked about earlier where, okay, I'm going to have to pay all these taxes. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to buy this big piece of equipment. Now it's an expense. I don't know Uncle Sam any much, right? That much money. But I still have this piece of equipment. If I sell the company, the value of that's going to get lumped in and then I got to pay, right? So as we get closer to the exit, we want to make those documents look better. We want to make it look like this company is very profitable. And to do that, we may have to pay some taxes. And by paying them now, we're more than likely avoiding paying them in a couple of years because we've already satisfied that debt there. You know what I mean? Whereas if I buy that piece of equipment, I avoided the tax in that moment. Yeah, we can depreciate it, right? But there's going to be some taxable component to it. Okay,
and that makes it harder to sell the company, or it gives the buyer something more to think about.
Well, if I'm selling you the company, and my average net profit is $400,000 over the last 3 years, or if I'm selling you the company and the average net profit is $600,000 over the last 3 years, the one that's 600 is going to allow me to ask more money for the company. Right. So I paid a little bit of tax burden to prep up a financial package that allows me to ask more money from you because you see, wow, this business makes a lot of money. It does, right? The minute I start to make expenses to then like decrease that tax burden, in essence, you're going to look at me and say, well, the business only makes $100,000 a year. I can't afford to hire someone else if I buy it right now.
Awesome.
Make sense?
I think so. My little puny little brain, I got it.
We're going to do a lot more on this.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is Mr. Brian LaFauci. Mr. Brian LaFauci. Mr. Brian LaFauci runs a company. The name of the company, Brian, is
One Strategy.
One Strategy. How can we find you, Mr. LaFauci, of your small business?
On the website that you're doing for me. OneStrategy.com.
One
spelled W-O-N.
One with the one. Yeah, with the win. We're looking for wins, right?
OneStrategy.com.
Excellent, man. This was very educational. Thanks for
having me on your podcast.
Thank you for your presentation. So just to sum up, you want to have an exit strategy and 3 blunt force facts for your small business exit strategy. Blunt force fact number 1, you got to have something to buy. Blunt force fact number 2, you got to give the tax man the win, which we just talked about at the end. And blunt force fact number 3, the end starts at the beginning. Have your 1 year, your 5 year, your 10 year, your 20 year exit strategy in your business plan when you start. Don't think about it at the end. Anything else you want to wrap up with here, my friend?
That's it, buddy. Good stuff.
I am Patrick Marino.
Brian LaFauci.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.